Hey YouTubers, how you doing? I have here a Remington R-25 in 308. One of the very first videos I shot when I started my YouTube channels was a shooting montage of this rifle. So I've had it several years now, and it's one of my favorite rifles, but for some unknown reason I have never done a review on it, so I figured it was time. The 308's excellent deer cartridge. I'd argue it's the best all-around big game cartridge there is. Some would say the 30-06, which I can't disagree with. I give the 308 the nod just because it's a shorter round. It's more workable in standard size actions. So, and this Remington right here is a excellent rifle to shoot that 308 out of. Now, I kind of want to show you some differences here. This here is a standard AR15. So here's a Colt. Just to kind of show you. And some of the things you'll notice on this, the receiver is rounded right here, whereas this is more squared off. Okay, and the Ford assist is a little bit closer up, and that's just due to where the bolt is. The grooves are further up on a bolt. But the reason I kind of wanted to show you this AR-15, you'll see this is kind of like a scaled up version of it. But I kind of wanted to show you the AR-15 to tell you some of the differences. There's two types of, and I'm going to say large sized ARs. I'm going to say that for now, and I'm going to clarify what I mean by that, okay? There are essentially two types of large framed ARs. There's the AR-10, which, and I'm going to say AR-10, there's actually like the AR-10B, 10T, there's several different types. There's the AR-10, and then there's the SR-25 platform. The AR-10 is the original that was made by the Armalite Corporation. There are many differences, but the most notable difference is the magazine. An AR-10 magazine will not work in any of the SR-25 platforms. The SR-25 platform is all of the large ARs with exception to the Armalite AR-10s. Okay? SR-25 stands for Stoner Rifle 25, and it's basically his larger. When AR-15 was originally designed, it was the AR-10, and it was in the 308 caliber. He shrunk it down, made it a 223, and then he kind of phased it out. The new AR-10, which is different than everybody else's, they made Armalite, and their idea was to make it as efficiently and as durably as possible. The SR-25, Stoner, after he had left Armalite, he went and I believe it was Knight's Armament made this in conjunction, made the SR-25, and the SR-25, their concept behind that was to make it as close to the AR-15 as possible. So externally, even though this looks more different to the AR-15 than the AR-10 does, the AR-10 has everything rounded off. The AR-10 externally looks more like a larger AR-15. The SR-25 exterior-wise looks different. However, internally, it's similar to the AR-15. And I hope I'm not making this too confusing. The SR-25, probably 60% of the parts are compatible with an AR-15. Obviously, the receiver is not, the barrel's not, the bolt is not, but most of the other parts are. So that's the difference between an SR-25 and an AR-10. But with all the confusion aside, and you can do more research on it on the internet, but all the technical stuff aside, the most important thing that you need to know about the difference is the magazines. The magazines will not fit. So the DPMS, the Knight's Armament, Rock River Arms, SOF USA, all of those, the Remington, all of those are SR-25s. As I said, the Armalite AR-10 is the only AR-10 platform out there. Okay, so we'll set that aside. Forget about all that now. So some of the technical specs here on this. It comes in 243 Winchester, 7mm .8 Remington, and 308 Winchester. It's a 20-inch chromoly barrel. It's free-floated inside of the machined aluminum 4-end tube. The barrel is fluted. It has 6 flutes, 6 longitudinal flutes forward of the gas block, which helps keep the weight to a minimum and is supposed to help with cooling. Now this here, of course, for those educated on ARs, it is a semi-automatic rifle. It's not fully automatic, anything like that. It's semi-automatic. It has a recessed crown. They call it a recessed hunting crown, and that's to protect. The recess helps protect the crown, which, if you don't know, the crown is arguably the most important part of the barrel because it's the last thing that the bullet touches. So if you have some sort of severe groove, or you put a gouge in it, something like that, that gouge is going to be the last thing that bullet touches, and it can affect the trajectory of the bullet. It has a single stage hunting trigger set at 4.5 to 5 pounds. I found it to be pretty good trigger. It actually feels a lot like a standard M16 or AR15 trigger. Feels like a standard mil-spec trigger. So some people complain. Some people are just finicky about triggers. I'm not. Just work with your trigger, practice with it, and you'll be good. Has a Picatinny rail up top for optics and accessories. Has the standard mil-spec pistol grip right here. Has rear and front sling swivels. I like to, at times, like when I go to the range, I mount a bipod on the front. Comes in a mossy oak tree stand pattern. Includes a 4-round magazine, and the magazine is compatible with any DPS magazines. In fact, the magazine says DPS on it. DPS made a magazine. And it also comes with a lockable hard case, and I didn't bring that for the sake of the video, but the hard case that comes with it is an excellent case, very good case. The only bad thing about the case is that it is injection molded, so if you have a lot of accessories on this, you're gonna have to take them off. A lot of scopes won't fit inside the case, which is kind of, I've always preferred those injection molded cases up until I started putting scopes and stuff on rifles, and I don't like them so much now. I prefer the foam padded, but it is a high quality case. It's just not the best if you have accessories on it. So, and I'm gonna go ahead right now and tell you that the one flaw in this rifle is the DPS magazines. And I'm gonna tell you straight up, the DPS magazines suck, all right? I threw mine out. It's got a no-tilt, or it's got a tilt follower, and the problem I had with it is that as you fire it, the recoil from the rounds, the recoil caused the rounds to move forward in the magazine, so I've had chambering issues with it. The bolt is just not picking up the rounds after they've slid forward. So I would make a recommendation. This one here is a C Products LLC magazine. Magpul makes one. This one from C Products, if you like metal, is excellent. Ditch the DPMS mags and buy yourself some decent mags. I had so many issues with the DPS mag that came with this. Basically, every other round there was a malfunction. So when I loaded a round, it chambered fine, it fired, the recoil moved it forward. Every round after that, it would not chamber. I had tons of issues. Haven't had an issue since switching magazines. So ditch the DPS magazine, get yourself a good magazine. Remington, DPMS, if you're watching this, you got to do something about your magazines. So I'm going to take it apart here, and this is actually, I'm going to try not to take up my tripod, camera tripod. Very tight buttons. I've kind of had issues with them. I found a little wood dowel that works great for popping them out. Once I get started, they're fine. They're just very difficult to start. But they are getting easier. I think some of that is the paint. The paint is all the way on the inside. So it looks pretty standard. It looks like a standard AR. I want to show you some of the differences here. So I grabbed another AR than the Colt that I just showed you, because that Colt is a pre-ban, and Colt does not have a takedown pin on the front of the receiver. They just have a pivot pin, which makes you can't completely separate upper from lower receiver, which makes it kind of difficult. So I grabbed my Bravo company here. Here's the difference between the R-25 and a standard AR. The wall here, you notice, thicker, but internal parts are pretty much the same. This here is a little bit thicker. Very similar. Here's the bolt. I'll go ahead and compare the bolts on here. Obviously the 308's bigger bolt face. Bolt carrier group is bigger. Now, and one of the differences also, and let me hold on here. I think I forgot my pen. I need a pen to get this. There you go. See that pin there looks a little bit different. This here is a little bit of a difference in the pin, and I'm not sure if that's just the Remington and DPS version, or if all of them are like that. Some of you might have seen I did a video on the DPMS LR338, which is very similar to this. Now, here's one thing it's a subtle difference, but it is a difference. If you look here at the pin right here, this is sideways, or excuse me, this one is more sideways. This one is parallel to the bolt face. Guess I could have just left this pin out. So here's the pin. Looks very similar. See how this? It's kind of tricky to get out because of the size, but it's parallel to the bolt. Okay, now let me show you this one here. This one here, you actually have to spin to get it out. And there's the hole. Subtle difference, but a difference nonetheless. And then here's the bolt itself. And the bolt is just a bigger version. I don't really see a difference in these, just a different version. The extractor's all the same. Everything's the same, just bigger. So the reassembly is very similar. Actually, it's the same. And once again, you align this the way you normally would a typical AR-15 when you're putting it in. You just don't spin it. Oops. That's gonna... Oops, wrong way. Right to left. There we go. So, and then when you look internally here, there's not a lot of differences in that either. You'll see it's, you know, a little bit thicker through here, but as far as parts and design, really very little difference. You'll notice on here get this the right way, the forward assist on this it just works off this groove right there. It's a little bit stiffer. on the AR-15 there's actual grooves in it. This here doesn't have those. So that is it in a nutshell. Now, one of the things that I have seen, and I'd say it's more common in the SR25, the full-size ARs, than it is on the standard-size AR-15s. But the one thing I've noticed is some of the manufacturers, a trend towards not putting a forward assist on there. That, I think, is a huge mistake. It was designed with a forward assist. It needs a forward assist. Now, if you're going to use this as a hunting rifle, I would definitely recommend a forward assist. The reason being, when you go to chamber around, all right, if you don't have a forward assist, in order to make sure that you chamber around, you got to release the bolt. That's really, really, really loud, okay? So what I find myself doing, and I don't have a round in here, so it's not going to work perfectly well, but you really have to ease it forward quietly, and it's not going to sit in battery perfectly. It's going to sit right on the edge, and it's not going to do it because I don't have a round in there, but it's going to sit right about there. So you're going to need to give it a couple cracks to forward assist, especially if you're in your tree stand. All of the rule books tell you that you need to climb up into your tree stand with an empty chamber in your rifle. Actually, you're supposed to climb up, then pull your rifle up with an empty chamber. If you do that, that means you're going to be chambering a round in your tree stand. You definitely don't want to make a lot of noise on there. So this forward assist is imperative. If you don't, you're going to go click, and the round's not going to be in battery, and nothing's going to happen. So you must have a forward assist. So I would definitely recommend not buying in the large size AR-15s, the SR25 or AR-10, whatever. I would recommend not buying it unless it has a forward assist. That's just my opinion. You know, go with what you want, but I would definitely not recommend it. So, as always, if you have any questions, let me know. Semper Fi.